Zimbabwe, a nation with a population of 13 million people from a variety of backgrounds. Whoever you may be, whatever community you represent, one common need binds us all together: blood, which makes up 70% of our bodies. We all have it, we all need it, and every drop counts. The need for blood donors is a constant essential necessity required to meet blood-related health challenges across the nation. Should one feel moved to contribute to this important cause, where do they go and how is it conducted? The National Blood Service Zimbabwe, NBSZ, is solely mandated by the government through the Ministry of Health and Child Care to collect, process, test, store, and distribute blood and blood products. It began as the Salisbury and District Blood Transfusion Service, established in 1958 as a non-for-profit company under the Companies Act. The Bulawayo and District Blood Transfusion Service was later established in 1960. In order to ensure conformity of practice and to provide a cost-effective national service, it was agreed to form a single transfusion service. The National Blood Transfusion Service was registered as a non-profit organization in May 1989, following the amalgamation of the Bulawayo District's Blood Transfusion Service and the Harare and District's Blood Transfusion Service. In 2006, the amalgamation was renamed from the National Blood Transfusion Service to the National Blood Service Zimbabwe. The institution has 5 branches countrywide: in Harare, Bulawayo, Masvingo, Gweru, and Mutare, and a distribution center in Hwange. The mandate of the National Blood Service is guided by a number of important values.
The National Blood Service is guided by the Code of Ethics of the International Society for Blood Transfusion. This is an agreed code of ethics by all blood transfusion services of repute in the world. Basically, it covers issues to do with how we handle the donor, the donor's rights, what we do with the blood and blood products. In other words, everything must be ethical and transparent, because you are handling a donated product by somebody volunteering to give you that product, and we must respect that donation throughout. And it is from this code of ethics that we developed our own standards and for blood transfusion for Zimbabwe. And we also developed our own national blood policy, which the Minister of Health endorsed.
The National Blood Service is a highly professional institution with well-trained, competent personnel dedicated to meet world-class standards in the collection and distribution of blood and blood products. To this end, they have consistently met international safety and professional standards by implementing quality management systems that comply with ISO 9001-2008.
The Safety, Health, Environment and Quality Department enjoys a close working relationship with the laboratory department, primarily because the people working in the SHEC department are laboratory scientists. National Blood Service Zimbabwe operates according to a quality management system that is primarily based on ISO 9001 of 2008. However, we also borrow quite a number of principles from other quality management systems. For example, good manufacturing practice, good laboratory practice, ISO 15189, ISO 17025. In fact, wherever we see principles that help us to improve our performance and our processes, we tend to borrow. As an organization, we are pursuing certification towards ISO 9001 of 2008 primarily, before we begin to build up to other management systems.
The only source of safe blood is a healthy blood donor. The NBSZ recruit blood donors through static and mobile clinics, which make regular visits around the country to schools, faith-based organizations, corporate and other organizations that wish to donate blood. 70% of the blood donations come from the youth, while 30% come from adults. This is why the NBSZ has embarked on an adult donor mobilization campaign. Blood donation comes from both the youth and the adult, from ages 16 to 65. Men donate 4 times a year, while women donate 3 times a year. One of the key initiatives of the NBSZ is the Pledge 25 Club, targeting young donors.
The Pledge 25 Club is an idea that was started in 1994. It was a group of peer promoters from Harare and Masvingo who realized that there was no platform for out-of-school donors to continue donating. So that's when they came up with the idea of the Pledge 25 Club. The main thrust being to maintain out-of-school donors, that they continue donating after school. The title of the club implying that a member, by joining, pledges to donate at least 25 times by the age of 30.
The Pledge 25 concept has been so successful that over 63 other countries throughout the world have adopted it as well.
I would like to encourage those mostly that come from high school, because they are regular when they come from high school. And then in between high school and tertiary, there seems to be a gap that most of them drop out. I will encourage them to continue. And also I want to encourage those that of mature age, around 40s, 50s. When you get to that age, there are very few blood donors that are retained. So I will encourage that those that are donating, and even if at 40 you have not donated, you can start, so that, you know, we support the community and those that are in need.
The blood donor is very important to the NBSZ, and it is critical that as a potential blood donor you understand what is involved. NBSZ has in place a blood donor Bill of Rights, some of which are to be treated professionally with respect and dignity, to receive an effective service in a friendly and comfortable environment, and to feel free to ask questions, clarifications, etc. before, during, and after blood donation, and to receive prompt, truthful answers. Regular blood donors greatly benefit from NBSZ by receiving free of charge the blood and blood products prepared by the institution. If you have at least 10 donations, your spouse can enjoy these benefits too, if you are legally married. Your children, if they are below 21, and your biological parents can also receive these benefits. The first step on your journey to give blood begins at the clinic, where a qualified nurse phlebotomist explains the requirements and procedures through a brief medical assessment. All that is discussed during this session and all other data collected on your medical status is kept confidential.
There are 3 parts that pertain to blood donor selection. The first is pre-donation counseling. When we are conducting pre-donation counseling, we will be trying to establish if the donor is not at risk or has not been exposed to risk of contracting transfusion transmissible infections. Here I'm talking of HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and syphilis. So pre-donation counseling, it enables us to make a preliminary assessment of the donor to see if they can donate blood or not. Again, when we are conducting pre-donation counseling, we will be trying to establish risk factors and assess the donor's understanding of a safe donation. We also take this opportunity to explain the blood donation process to the donor, and we then give them time to ask questions if they've got any questions, and we do answer these questions. After having conducted a pre-donation counseling, we will then do a medical history check, whereby we will ask the donor to find out if they've got any medical conditions that they suffer from. There are quite a number of medical conditions that warrant deferral. We have a whole range of conditions, from malaria, it can be heart problems, it can be kidneys. So depending on the condition, the deferral periods are different. When we do this medical history, again, it will make the nurse who is conducting the counseling session to decide whether to accept the donor or whether to defer the donor temporarily or permanently. And then after the medical history check, we then do what we call health checks. Health checks, basically here we are looking at blood pressure. It has to be within the normal range. If your blood pressure is too high or too low, that can have an effect on the donor. And then we also check your hemoglobin to make sure that if you donate blood, you won't be anemic yourself, you as a donor. Okay, and then we conduct the weight check. Those are basically the 3 health checks that we do.
After the brief medical assessment, the donor then proceeds to the donor clinic, where they donate their blood. During the blood donation, which takes 15 minutes, great care is taken to ensure that the donor is comfortable and safe. At every stage of the blood donation process, a careful, detailed record is kept. To ensure blood safety, collected blood donations are subject to a series of stringent tests to screen it. For traceability from donor to recipient, information on the blood is first entered into the system. The blood is also separated into its different components, such as plasma, packed red cells, platelets, and cryoprecipitates, for various use to cater for different medical conditions. Thereafter, the lab will then test for transfusion transmissible infections, also known as TTIs, which are hepatitis B and C, HIV, and syphilis. These test results are kept confidential. The laboratory also does ABO and REAS blood grouping and antibody screening on all donated blood. When all these steps involved in blood processing are carefully considered, it is then clear why there are user fees charged to hospitals for blood distribution.
We receive free blood from donors, but we have to invest in the infrastructure for collecting and for testing and for storage and for distribution. We incur costs through donor mobilization. Our public relations officers, they travel to all corners of the country, mobilizing people to donate blood. And we incur things like fuel for their motor vehicles, and we have to buy the motor vehicles, we have to maintain the motor vehicles, and also we have to pay for their staff. After donor recruitment, we go and collect blood. We have to buy donor comforts for blood donors. And after blood collection, when it comes in the laboratory, the situation is even worse, because we have invested in high-tech equipment, which makes our blood safe. It becomes one of the safest blood in the world. So these are all costs which are incurred. So after the processing and the testing of blood, we need to store our blood and we have also invested in high-powered cold chain equipment. So at the end of the day, all these costs have to be recovered. So the user fee which we charge hospitals will be trying to recover costs incurred in all this line.
NBSZ has confidentiality mechanisms in place that guard the protection of all its information through a blood bank software called eDelphin system.
The eDelphin is actually a blood bank software system that we did introduce at National Blood Service, Zimbabwe, on the 8th of October 2012. The system does keep all the donor information, all the test results that we do to all the blood that we collect, and also information about our customers. And in that regard, it is very important that we do safeguard the information that we collect about the donor personal information, about our customers, and as such, our system is also has got inbuilt confidentiality issues. And one of the things that, of course, it can only be accessed by authorized staff who are given login details to make sure that the system is only given or accessed its contents by these authorized persons.
After going through the stringent screening process, the blood and its different components are then ready to be dispatched where needed to health institutions throughout the country. The effort, however, requires considerable resources, and to this end, the NBSZ has forged strategic partnerships with the corporate world to sustain and boost their efforts. Net1 is one such partner who has contributed significantly to the efforts of the NBSZ.
As Net1, we are fully behind the NBSZ in its preparations to commemorate World Blood Donor Day. EasyCall, our prepaid service, has enjoyed partnership with the National Blood Service Zimbabwe since year 2006. EasyCall takes social responsibility very seriously, so assisting NBSZ's efforts to strengthen its capacity to stock up the National Blood Bank through sponsoring the National Schools Competition.
Corporates like Net1 are an example to all, making a difference in the lives of many people in need of blood and blood products. One of the major beneficiaries are mothers who face numerous blood-related health challenges during childbirth.
One of our biggest problems is the maternal mortality rate. The mothers who are dying around pregnancy. 525 women die around pregnancy, out of every 100,000 women. So that's a big figure. So if save blood for safe mothers, it makes a lot of sense.
The work of the NBSZ relies on the willingness of voluntary, non-remunerated blood donors. Live responsibly and make your contribution. Give blood, give life. Every drop counts.